Welcome into the Four Verticals Podcast, episode 145, here on a Tuesday, high atop a beautiful, gorgeous Jacksonville, Florida. Yes, there is no face cam, and I am hearing myself in the background there on YouTube. Had to pull it up on one of my tabs. So yeah, a beautiful Jacksonville, Florida, gorgeous outside, nice weather, Chamber of Commerce day. Yes, I'm aware that there is no face cam. Working on some stuff behind the scenes, so it's just audio today here on YouTube. Spotify, just kind of ignore that. But yeah, welcome to the show. Episode 145. We have thoughts on Week 12. I'll go through some of the games real quick because we did not do our traditional Sunday, early Sunday morning, Sunday night reaction. We'll bring that back. We'll bring that back this week. Got an Oregon USC pick. Latest on Lane Kiffin, what his future is at Ole Miss. Got some thoughts on CFB expansion. No Tuesday poll today. The Tuesday poll will be on Thursday, so we'll have to switch a there because of how loaded the show is. We also have some thoughts on James Franklin going to Virginia Tech. That was announced yesterday. And we have thoughts on the Bills, Bucs, a game that I famously predicted Tampa to win. I got wrong. So you guys can clown at me and laugh at me in the comments. I'm sure most of you probably are. That's okay. But as we are here, we get the show started. First of all, welcome to the show. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, okay? Subscribe. We're at, I think currently right now, 10 subscribers, I believe, on YouTube. We need that to be around 20 by the end of the year. I think we can do that. So by end of December, first week of January, 20 subscribers, okay? I know I have more followers on Twitter than I do on my on the YouTube channel. So be sure, if you're watching this show on live or on the replay on Spotify or on YouTube, be sure to make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. Just do it. And also be sure to bring some of your friends on along with it. Your family members, if they like college football, we talk about it here. A lot of things happening in the world of college football, a lot of things happening. So if they're friends of if they're friends, family, just make them subscribe. Pretty simple. I know things are kind of getting crazy out there of coaching searches and the college football playoff and all that, and the coaching, this little coaching cycle in general and the way the calendar is laid out. So a lot of news is happening very quickly. Not to mention, of course, we cover Marvel and Star Wars, and there's a lot of things happening with Marvel right now. If the Doomsday trailer probably coming out, the trailer for Avengers Doomsday coming out within the next couple of weeks or so. That's the feel going around. There's a lot of news coming in for a lot of different things. Just be sure to follow me on the social media side as well, Instagram, YouTube, or Instagram X, and also follow on YouTube as well. So, and all this is free as well, free of charge. Week 12 reaction. Again, we did not do our typical reaction show that we do on Sunday morning, Saturday night for a couple of reasons, but we were able to do so. But we'll just breeze through them real quickly here. Mostly SEC heavy. Yes, I did watch USC beat Iowa. Congrats to Lincoln Riley and them. They're setting up a huge game with Oregon this weekend. We'll talk about that here in a moment. Oklahoma beats Alabama. Now, a lot of things to discuss here about this game. Now, this is several days old, so it's old news, but we'll go through it quickly. But there's a lot to discuss here. As most people do, we talked about the winners first. Oklahoma probably had one of its best games defensively this season. Like, they did everything you could to stop the run against Bama, which Bama can't run the ball anyway. But they also did not necessarily allow the big nuclear play, like a play of like 40-plus yards. I'm trying to remember, and they may have had one, but it didn't really impact the game. And I thought that was the key for OU to eliminate the nuclear play. And they kind of did that. Now, it also helps when Bama turns the ball over 4 times, which we'll circle back to that in a moment. But for Brent Venables, probably the biggest win of his career, I would imagine. First win in Tuscaloosa, I believe, ever. I don't imagine that OU has ever played there before. I don't think they have, so that was their first trip and got their first win there ever. So they're 1-0 there in Bryant-Denny Stadium. But they become OU, the first team in the SEC, not named LSU, to beat Alabama since Ole Miss in 2015. 10 years. 10 years since a team not named LSU beats Alabama, or at least a non LSU SEC team. So yes, an SEC team not named LSU. That's what I was trying to say. A SEC team not named LSU to beat Alabama, the first team to do so since Ole Miss did it in 2015 with Lane Kiffin, or not Lane Kiffin. He's currently in Ole Miss, but Hugh Freeze. So it's been 10 years since a team not named LSU in the SEC went on the road to beat Alabama. Very, very rare to see. Of course, Texas doesn't count because that was a non-con in 23. So a lot of milestones here, and not just for LSU, but also, and I guess record keeping for the SEC. So pretty big deal for OU. Their path for the postseason is still there. I mean, they get LSU to end the year, and they have Missouri on deck this week. They can lose both of those games. They can also win all those games. So OU, I mean, they can finish 10-2. They can also finish 8-4. So the ball is in Brent Venables' court. And to answer the question, yes, I don't believe Brent Venables is getting fired. I think the way the season has gone, and it isn't just this game, but even before, I feel like Brent was pretty much safe there to OU. And even with John Mature not having his best game, they were still able to find ways to win. As for Alabama, a lot of conversation about Kalen DeBoer and his future there. Okay, we'll just get it out of the way first. He's fine. Okay, he's fine. Nothing's happening. It's fine. I really hate this when it comes to a lot of these fan bases, especially ones like Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Tennessee. Well, maybe not them, but the bigger fan bases who are cheering for teams who have won national titles recently. What really bothers me with them is that they get so petty and just so angry when their team loses at home or in a bowl game or whatever. It doesn't matter when they lose. It gets very toxic, and I don't understand it to a certain degree. Now I get, you lose a game, you're pissed off, and you should be mad. But to say, and I've seen this a lot from Bama fans over the past 72, 84 hours, that a lot of conversation about killing the board, going to Penn State, folks. That's not a real thing. That's just make believe crap. Okay, so that's not real. Nor his job security in jeopardy. It's not, okay? So just don't even think about it. So he's fine. There's nothing wrong with killing the board. They have, I think, they have a recruiting class that's, just a reminder, signing day is coming up here in about a couple weeks. They have a recruiting class that I believe is going to finish in the top 5 easily. So they're okay? Like, they're fine. But is there a reason to, get the walking papers drafted and hoping and praying that he takes the Penn State job? No, okay, just settle down. It's fine. It's fine. The problem is with Bama, and this kind of ties into OU as well, that this game, in my opinion, did not change the perception of OU for me or for Alabama. Mind you, this time last week, I picked OU to cover the spread, while other folks wrongfully thought Bama was going to take care of business, albeit their sort of method into making that pick, I sort of agree with. But I didn't truly trust Alabama in this situation because I haven't trusted them all year, all the time. Okay, like there's been moments where I did trust them, the Georgia game, and I believe the Tennessee game as well. That's where I did trust them. But there were other games around the year, like the South Carolina game and a few others, the LSU game, where I just did not believe or I didn't trust fully in Alabama. And this game was one of them. But my opinion of them has not changed, okay? Like, for example, in the power ratings world where you see everyone do their power ratings and stuff, which is just who would be favored over who, Bama did not drop in anyone's power ratings. You'd be asking yourself, well, they lost the game to a team they were favored by. Should they drop? No. In fact, according, I agree with Bud Elliott over on CBS Sports and Cover 3. I actually think Bama, the way they profile, or at least they were profiling in this game, I actually think more highly of them because they were doing certain. Now, yes, they didn't have the big nuclear play, but there were opportunities to be had to where a nuclear type play could have been made. I mean, Ty Simpson, in my opinion, had his worst game since the Florida State game, which this looked very similar to that. Just off time, off rhythm type stuff. So more often than not, you've seen him hit those big plays. So I think not yesterday. I think Saturday, what we saw Saturday from Bama, a very rare, a very isolated incident to where, at least on offense, they just didn't really produce enough explosive plays to win the game. I think defensively, not their fault either. I think the big problem here and the biggest culprit to this loss was turnovers. Again, brought up that 2015 Ole Miss game. Very similar to that, right? Go back to that, the Hugh Freeze, Chad Kelly going there and they win. Everyone thinks, well, Ole Miss just went off on offense and they dominated the game and Bama just came back. Well, some of that is true. The comeback was true. The offensive explosiveness from Ole Miss. But Bama turned the ball over 5 times in that game. They turned the ball over 4 times this past Saturday. So some similarities there. So my opinion of Bama, my opinion of Oklahoma hasn't changed really at all. They're still kind of where I think they will. And really, when we do the Tuesday poll, I probably won't drop Bama that much. Probably will keep him somewhere in the top 6. I just won't drop them because they're still a good team, and I think they should be able to take care of business the next 2 weeks. So yeah, all the friends in Tuscaloosa, all the folks listening, it's okay to be mad, or it's okay to be upset, but it's not okay to be mad. Okay, like everything's fine. Like you're not. This isn't like last year where a crippling loss to OU took out the playoffs. Like everything, all of your goals are still out there. Okay, like same with last year with Michigan or Michigan beating Ohio State, and Ohio State how they lost another game earlier in the year to Oregon. Again, the same thing. Everything's okay. Everything's fine. So, seeing a lot of folks getting very, very steamed up about this game. I mean, I get it from an emotional standpoint. I understand that you can be mad, but I just don't understand why a lot of folks equate to, Kalen DeBoer loses his first home game. Oh, gotta fire him. Like, that's not how college football works. It's not how the coaching carousel works. At least in my opinion, that's not how it should work, and nor for the most part that doesn't work in real life. Okay, like just because you lose one game at home for the first time ever under your new head coach doesn't mean you need to fire the guy. So okay, if you want to fire him, who's the fucking replacement? Who is it? Okay, is it bring back Nick Saban as an interim? No, that's complete garbage and that's crap. So to anyone who is suggesting that Kalen DeBoer should be fired just because he loses his first fucking game at home, guess what, buddy? Take the checks, take the losses. This is a new SEC. This is a new reality. Get used to it. All right, moving right along. I don't usually get this mad like this, but I've been hearing so much crap about Kalen DeBoer. I'm an Alabama fan. Like I'm just defending him generically. Okay, like I'm gonna move on before I get too upset here. Georgia handling Texas. Felt kind of good about this game. I think Georgia, sort of like last year. This is the version of Georgia, at least in terms of the physicality stuff that we thought we were going to get during all the games of this year. It just didn't happen that way. And by the way, they only have one loss to Alabama. So Georgia, kind of sneakily in the driver's seat for the SEC championship game. Them and Texas A&M, which we'll get to here in a minute. So Georgia handles Texas. It was a splattering, if you will. Not very competitive. Texas, though, we'll get in a minute. But for Georgia, the competitiveness and the willing that Kirby Smart has is incredible. Even with all of the deficiencies they have on the offensive line, defensive line especially, where they're not really strong this year, they still can put out a performance like that against a team that I kind of think it's a fairly decent team in Texas. A Texas team that, especially on the can't talk, man. I'm so pumped up. For a Texas team, for them to dominate a Texas team that was scaling up in terms of their offensive production. There you go. Get out there, Josh. They did pretty well and sort of taking away a lot of things Texas was doing right, like the short passes, the intermediate throws that Arch was trying to do. Like they did a very good job of just taking that away from them. And I credit Kirby Smart and Georgia for doing that, a whole staff there. And that's why seeing what Kirby has done the past 2 years of two Georgia teams that are extremely flawed. Like they are very, very flawed in terms of certain aspects of the team that weren't necessarily flaws a few years ago. Most of it's because of, maybe not handling the portal the best and also just players and attrition with your roster and whatnot. It's amazing to me how Georgia can put up a performance like that given certain deficiencies they have on certain parts of their team. So that is amazing to watch. And no, I don't expect Georgia to have that level of performance every single game. Like, for example, the Georgia Tech game in about 9 days away from now, I don't expect it to be like the Texas game. I expect that game to be much more competitive. So Georgia handling Texas there. Last SEC game we'll cover from this past weekend. Again, we're trying to go a little quickly here. because we still have to get through a lot more of the show. But Texas A&M, South Carolina, 31-30, probably the game of the year, not only in the SEC, but also in probably all of football, probably. Definitely up there. When I was watching this, a couple things were going through my mind. And it really is sort of like kind of two different games almost. Like the first half really felt like, oh, good for South Carolina. Cocktober's back. It was just a month delayed. It wasn't, it wasn't totally dead. It was back. And I felt that, and I'm sure a lot of our folks around the country felt that South Carolina was finally getting a huge win this season. Shane Beamer and that whole staff there, and Lenore Sellers and them, good for them, getting a huge win on the road and kind of saving their season. And they built that huge lead, and you get really confident. And Shane Beamer was confident. The team felt confident. I'm sure South Carolina fans around the country felt confident. But then the second half happens, and then the tables get reversed. A&M is still there. The team's still there. Mike Elko, it's not like he didn't show up. Not like A&M didn't show up. Excuse me. It's not like they. It's kind of weird. It's like people just thought going into that second half, and I saw this on Twitter throughout the game. It's like a lot of folks thought that, oh yeah, South Carolina's up 30-3. Oh yes, A&M just won't show up the rest of the game. Well, A&M said, all right, you think that way, we'll show up. They went on a huge run. Even by taking the lead, or when the time they took the lead, South Carolina was once again driving and kind of threatening to take the lead back. And they fumbled the football, and A&M runs out the clock. Huge gut check game for Texas A&M. And in fact, like I said on Twitter, this win for A&M feels sort of like the Penn State-Indiana game last week, to where this will serve A&M well going forward. Yes, it's not good to fall behind like that and having to sort of, bubble gum and paperclip your way back to a win. But this shows, and kind of something that I've been hinting at, and Josh Pate's been hinting at, Texas A&M is a classic toolkit team, to where they can win a football game in many ways. They can win a defensive battle like they did against Auburn. They can win in a shootout like they did against Notre Dame early in the year. They can also dominate you like they did against Missouri and LSU, and they can also come from behind and win like against South Carolina. So again, Texas A&M is definitely, at least this year's sort of toolkit team, where they're kind of a jack of all trades type team, where they can win in multiple ways, different styles of doing it, and this will serve them well. Now, granted, I know the discussion after this game is going to be, or at least the discussion was after this game, and probably still going on, is, well, okay, if we start out like that against, Ohio State in the playoffs, they're not going to come back. That is true, but this, in a lot of ways, is sort of like a nice little warning, if you will, or just a warning. It's sort of like when you get pulled over by the police or the state troopers and whatnot when you're speeding. Sometimes they'll be nicer with you, depending on who he or she is. They'll stop you over, they'll pull you over. It's either going to be, they're harsh towards you and they tell you, here's your ticket, go fill it out and whatnot, and pay the fine, or they'll give you a warning. They'll be nice about it and they'll tell you to go on your way. A&M got a warning instead of a speeding ticket. Like, they got caught, but it was a warning, okay? So this is a warning to that team and a warning to that program that, look, you may have survived this game, but if you get down, 28-0 to Texas, or 31-0 to, name any team in the playoff, you may not be able to do that. Like, the capabilities of doing that are very, very slim, because they're going to be going against other teams that are in that blue chip ratio that have right around the same talent, or the same talent level. So this game was a warning for them. For Texas A&M, it was a warning. It wasn't a speeding ticket, but it was a warning. So they survived it. Of course, Mike Elko gets that huge extension, so he is off the board from Penn State. He is staying at Texas A&M like I thought he would. As for South Carolina, this is demoralizing to watch if you're a South Carolina fan. Again, almost a tale of almost two different games. Like, the first half was like its own separate game. The second half was a total reverse. It'll be interesting to see what happens going forward with Shane Beamer. Now, he's not getting fired. Like, I don't think Shane Beamer is on a hot seat. He's not his job security is not at risk. At least I don't think it is. Granted, we have seen odd things happen this year in the coaching carousel, but going forward, I mean, look, Sellers, his future there at South Carolina is in question. Let's just call it that. Not that he's getting benched or anything. It's just him being there next year, because I don't think he's going to the league. I don't think he is necessarily going to grade well for the NFL. At least that's the feeling I'm getting. So he's likely to stay behind another year in college. Now, where that's going to be is the question, right? I mean, you can stay at South Carolina. Maybe they go in on the portal, and maybe they hope and pray that it's actually a good portal instead of what it was last year, and they get some better pieces around him. Or you could just up and leave. There's been a lot of teams that are wanting a quarterback next year. Auburn, Miami, of course, potentially even Tennessee in conference, depending on what the rules are. So there's been a lot of suitors out here for him. And there's been a lot of other programs that are, somewhat more ready-made in South Carolina. Maybe they have just a lot more talent than they do, and they have a better situation to where maybe they need a quarterback, like, again, Miami. And it's a ready-made situation for him, and he can go down there and have success. So it's tough. Again, like the old saying is from Bud Elliott, take the checks, take the losses. And again, that's just the new reality of the SEC. You voted on this. If you're South Carolina, or any team, frankly, it doesn't matter who you are, especially the bottom feeders like South Carolina, traditionally Ole Miss, Kentucky, Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi State. Like, you voted on this. Again, you took the checks. You're taking the losses. Have fun with that. Don't blame anyone else. You're the only one to blame yourself, because you're the one who voted on this. Like, you're the ones who allowed this to happen. So things like this will happen. You'll see, Milo. You are going to see, as we, especially in like the SEC and in some cases the Big Ten even. So you're going to get a team once in a while, at least one team in both of these conferences, where they're going to have a very erratic swing of, going from maybe 9 wins or 10 wins to all of a sudden winning like 3 or 4 games. Like, Penn State's dealing with it. South Carolina's dealing with it. Again, that's just the reality. Take the checks, take the checks, take the losses. Last up here, and we'll move on to I guess our week 13 prediction. Notre Dame runs past Pitt. No surprise there. Not really competitive game. Notre Dame was able to flex their muscles, and they probably locked in the playoff, I think. Though, again, their strength of schedule it's definitely not great. But based on what we have seen from other teams losing, I think as this picture becomes more cleaner, I guess, there's a real shot that Notre Dame is probably, you can sort of begin to pencil themselves in. It's not a guarantee, but I still kind of agree with others. I think their overall schedule is very weak, even compared to last year. So it's tough. I mean, in terms of their wins. Now, in terms of body of work, yes, you play 2 teams that are nationally ranked, but you lost both of them. You beat one of them. That Pitt team is kind of, not. Again, I know it sounds weird bringing in the power ratings, but in terms of power ratings, you were way above them. Okay, and in terms of listing teams of who would be favored over who, you were way above them. Like, there was a lot of separation from you and Pitt in terms of the favorability. So, it's kind of is what it is in terms of your schedule, in terms of the teams you have beaten. Like, most of them aren't going to a bowl game except for a handful. Then the ones you did lose to are actually the good teams. So again, it's the weird, kind of a logic thing. But I think Notre Dame's in. Yes, I also do agree that their schedule, in terms of their wins, it's very sus. And I don't know if that would really constitute a playoff, them being in the playoff technically, but I think they probably will, even though I may not agree on it. So yeah, about 23 minutes there on week 12, a little bit more than I thought we would get, but that's okay. Again, we only have one game we're predicting this week because it's a kind of a smaller. Well, it's not. There's a lot of marquee games. Actually, the upset alert on Thursday. That big boy is going to be. That's going to be a long list of games we're going to cover, but that's why we have Thursday. That's why that show exists. Actually, yeah, I'm going to get some water real quick. We'll mute here on YouTube, and then we will move on to Oregon USC. Very excited, by the way. Very excited for that game. By the way, again, if you are new here, be sure to subscribe. It's not that hard. Again, we want to get to around 20 subscribers by the time we get to the end of the year. So if you have any friends, family, tell them, hey, subscribe to the channel. Okay? Just do it. I know the holidays are coming up. Everyone's meeting together. Just tell them, hey, if you like college football, go subscribe to this guy. For Verticals Podcast on YouTube. Do it. Again, we need 10. We need 10 more subscribers. That's all we need. 10 more. I'm sure some of you have a couple of people who watch the show live or on the replay. I'm sure most of you have, at the bare minimum, at least 1 to 2 people that you can get to subscribe to this channel. I would highly recommend it. So be sure to do that. Again, our goal by the end of the year, which is in about a month or so, is to get to 10 more subscribers. You have 10 right now. I think we're kind of borderline 10 or 9. We just need to get to 20. That's our goal. If we don't make it, we'll still do the show, but I'll be disappointed. So that's our goal. 20 subscribers by the time we get to New Year's Eve, I guess. Oregon, USC. I believe this is the 3:30 game on CBS. So Gary Danielson, Brad Nessler, Jenny Dale will be there. Josh Pay will be there as well. He doesn't work for CBS anymore, but he'll be there because of his tour. Actually, I forgot some information here, so let me actually add that in real quick. I totally forgot about that. But yeah. So as we do that again, kind of an impromptu situation here about. I just forgot to fill this out. It was something regarding some numbers here. But yeah, as we're kind of here, I guess we'll redo the intro here in a second. But yeah, but be sure to subscribe to the channel. Again, that's all I'm asking for. Again, we're hoping to get 20 more, or we're hoping to get 20 subscribers before the end of the year. And also, be sure to just follow us on social media too. Instagram, we're still trying to figure out what we're doing over there. But we'll see about that before we're going to continue doing with that. But well, yeah, just be sure to subscribe over there as well. And again, same with Twitter as well. Just be sure to subscribe to that. We are very active on there, and we're growing over there a little bit, but not as much as I thought we would be. But and some of that's kind of me here, kind of airing some dry, or kind of filling in some air here. Again, apologies for not getting this done. Okay, it's all been filled out. I just forgot to fill out some stuff here on the old notes. All right, Oregon, USC. Again, we're redoing this again. 3:30 again on CBS. Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson, Jenny Dale, Josh Pay will be there for his tour. Very excited about this game. Classic old Pac-12 matchup. So kind of the ghost of the Pac-12 still exists, although officially it does not. Very good uniform game, too. The classic USC uniforms and whatever Oregon's going to wear, trot out there. Of course, you have Puddles the Duck. Just a lot of pageantry. Autzen Stadium, Eugene, Oregon, by the way, game day. Back there a second time. Can't blame them, although it would have been nice for them to go somewhere else. But this is a huge game. Huge game for USC in particular, because their playoff hopes and their postseason potential, and also even potential to get to the Big Ten championship game, rides on this game. Because they only have one loss in the conference, right? Them and Michigan are kind of the ones that people forget are still battling for going to Indianapolis. Very small chance they get there, but beating Oregon, if you're USC, will be a huge part of getting to the Big Ten title game. I think the key to this game, if you're looking at it just generically here, the key to this game for me is whether or not USC can once again be physical and continue that trend. Because again, like I mentioned last week, and look, I incorrectly picked Iowa to win the game because I thought they were going to be more motivated after that. After them losing closely to Oregon last week on the road at USC. But while USC did look physical in that game, again, I just don't know if I can believe them overall to consistently do that. And that was at home. This time will be on the road, and once again, much like last week, will be in the rain. Kind of interesting trend here with both Oregon and USC and Iowa. Kind of a lot of rain-themed games here. Hopefully Dan Lanny's not wearing that cotton sweater or shirt. Probably will because he's a psychopath. And look, I don't blame him for doing that because, we got to embrace the elements, I guess. But, yeah, I think the physicality problem here is going to be what is going to either doom USC or give them to a victory. You need to be physical because Oregon, the best defense or one of the best defenses in the Big Ten, one of the more physical teams in the Big Ten. They are one of the most talented teams in the Big Ten. It's a tall task. Yes, you did beat Michigan at home. Yes, you did beat Iowa. You did beat Nebraska on the road. This is a different animal. Okay, literally a different animal because the team mascot is a duck. But I just don't know if USC can do it consistently. Now, they can do it. Again, they have shown they can do it. But I just don't know. Going on the road, hostile environment, it's a place that they have not Oregon under Dan Lanning, they've only lost there, I think, once or twice. Of course, one of them was Indiana. I think there was another loss a couple years ago, I think, to Washington. So only 2 losses there in Autzen. So very rare for them to lose, not to mention losing 2 games there in a single season. So I just don't know if USC can do it. Again, I think they can do it. They have a good quarterback in Jenny Maiava, probably the second best quarterback that Oregon has faced all year. I'd imagine besides Mendoza, that's probably the second best they faced. Maiava, I think, to me, he's really beginning to round in. He's really getting to round the form. I mean, he's dual threat guy. I think a lot of folks initially thought, oh, he's just a pure runner. He went from that, and I think what Lincoln Riley has done, and credit to him, is really turning him into a very good dual threat, backfield creator type quarterback. If you're using that terminology, he's very good, and he can create the big plays. USC can hit the nuclear plays, albeit it's a little bit different than what you would think when looking at a USC or just a Lincoln Riley team in general. Either at USC or OU, where they're not really having a lot of, at least their success offensively is not just geared to throwing the football. They can run the football, and they're doing it pretty well this year, which is part of the reason why in a lot of their wins against Michigan, against Iowa, and also against Nebraska, is that they were able to run the football. So that to me is the key. Again, can they be physical? Can they run the football? Can they do it in this situation on the road in a hostile environment? Because the last time they did that, the last 2 times, and only 2 losses, it didn't go so well. On the road at Notre Dame and then on the road at Illinois. That's going to be a tough environment for them. Again, Autzen Stadium, when I can tell, I know a lot of folks will also agree with me on this if you've been there. From what I can tell on the TV screen, it's a loud place. I mean, you get very loud. Even on the TV, grant you, it's it's not the same as going in person, but even on TV, it feels pretty loud. Just it's a tough environment. You have to weather the storm, literally and figuratively. And again, USC turns Lincoln Riley on the road. Not been great this year and going into the past, even going back to those Oklahoma days. It was very sketchy road record. So it's not. So Lincoln Riley's team's on the road, especially I guess at USC, if you're doing that sample size, not the best. That's also another concern too. Now Oregon, I have no idea if Koyon Moore, I believe that's who he is, the freshman receiver. They're missing a lot of guys. A lot of receivers have been banged up, kind of in and out of the lineup. So their availability is kind of, we don't know. I think did they have a bye week or did they play this week? I don't exactly remember. Top of my head, they may have had a bye. Let me see. Double check here. No, they didn't have a bye. Well, they kind of did have extra rest, but they had Minnesota, which kind of felt like a bye. But yeah, so they're still missing a lot of key contributors in terms of the wide receivers. Yes, they got the tight end back, but even that that is interesting to see who will be available, who is not going to be available. Again, we'll see about that. But again, in terms of USC, again, I really do believe the key here is how physical can they be, because Oregon can be physical. They did it with Iowa. And in fact, I mean, kind of interesting. The 2 teams they faced, both Iowa, handled the physicality kind of well, but the Grand Shield, one of them was on the road in a half rain and snowstorm. The other one was in hot conditions, sort of mild conditions, and rainy conditions there in California. And now this is going to be played in the Pacific Northwest. Now, if I check the temperature here in the forecast for Eugene, I believe it's on my phone here, I think, or I can just look it up. See here, Eugene, Oregon. It's loading, but I would imagine it's going to be a little bit more cooler than what it was up there in up there, or at least not up there, but it's going to be a lot cooler than it was for USC and Iowa. But let me just get to my to the weather on here instead. Yeah, this will be kind of let's see here. Yeah, so kind of cloudy on Saturday, a little cooler. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a little bit more of a colder setup and also a bit rainy. So now it's funny loading in. Yeah, there's going to be some rain. It's also going to be a lot cooler. So that can be a problem, especially for a team like USC that's not typically used to going on the road and playing in cold weather. You will be when you go to USC. So yes, I do believe the weather will be a factor here for the Trojans. And I think again the physicality thing, you got to make sure you're physical enough to match Oregon. Because again, Oregon can be physical. They've proven it. Even having one loss, they are proven to be a very physical team. Yes, the wide receiver thing's a problem. USC's defense has gone. It's been kind of a mixed bag. They've had moments where they've been pretty good, but they've also had moments where they've just been really sloppy. So, can I trust USC, especially on defense too, when going against the Oregon offense, with or without their star wide receivers? I don't know, because if those guys are ready to go and they're healthy, which I don't know if they are, doubt it. Then you're gonna have to, even with some of these guys, it's 50%. Like they're gonna have to really make sure you cover those guys well. So let's take a look at what the model has from CFB Nerds, Josh and Daniel, and the FanDuel line. So the FanDuel line is Oregon minus 9.5. The CFB Nerds model has Oregon minus 13.5, so 13.5, so a little bit bigger. I have been very conflicted on this game, very conflicted. I initially thought that USC can win this game. Again, if everything went perfectly well, sort of grabbing the momentum from last week, running into Autzen, Oregon kind of feeling themselves a little bit, maybe looking ahead to their rivalry game against Washington, and maybe kind of looking towards hopefully getting into the Big Ten championship game. I initially thought that USC could pull off the upset. Then I went to, okay, Oregon wins and USC covers. But the more and more I thought about it, the more, the more I kind of, or at least gradually as I began to think about it, I kind of realized that this is kind of a game for Dante Moore. A lot of Moores there. This is a huge game for Dante Moore. I think I can understand a lot of folks sort of backing off of him a little bit, kind of going, he hasn't really been doing all that well, or been really doing all that well for during the middle half of the middle part of the season. I understand that he's been kind of a mixed bag, but tell you what, man, when he is having his game, when he's at his best in the Penn State game, several of the games earlier this year, and I think the Rutgers game, I believe, was one of them. He's on, and I think with them being at home, hostile environment, the weather is sort of on their side. As much as again, I give credit to USC for doing what they did against Iowa at home and quasi similar weather to what they're going to face, or to what Oregon faced, but Granite Shield's a lot warmer. I give them credit for beating Iowa like that, playing Iowa's game and playing into it, and finding a way to be really physical and matching their physicality. But Oregon is not Iowa. Oregon is a much different type of caliber team. They are very, very hard to beat at home. And unless Jada Mayava goes off, and unless, maybe some turnovers, kind of sort of like the Oklahoma-Bama game to where Bama just had, a turnover fest. Unless that happens, I don't really think USC is going to win this game. I don't think they have much of a shot. So I sort of agree with the CFB Nerds model. I think Oregon wins the game, and I think they cover. I do believe that Oregon should be able to handle whatever USC has physically. I don't think USC can match up physically with Oregon. I think Dante Moore could be the difference in this game, and his ability to potentially carve up a USC team that hasn't probably been carved up that much, maybe since the Illinois game. So taking Oregon to win and cover here, the 9.5. Coaching carousel update. A lot of things happen here at the coaching carousel. Two of the biggest news items, if you will, going on. I mean, at the moment, look, the Penn State job, but we still don't know. Auburn, it's been quiet, but that's actually a good thing. LSU, who the hell knows what's going on there? I don't know what's going on. The two biggest pieces of news here. So the first one is, of course, James Franklin finally been hired by Virginia Tech. I thought this was going to happen a few weeks ago. This has sort of been percolating behind the scenes. It's finally announced. I'm glad they got the deal done. Yes, it did get leaked a little bit early from a random photo of someone on Photoshop getting the graphic ready, getting the social media graphic ready. So kudos to whoever sent that photo for getting it out early, not spoiling it. But yeah, we'll get to him in a minute. James Franklin going to Virginia Tech. I cannot stress how big this is for Virginia Tech. Getting one of the best coaches in college football. Again, whatever you think of him at the end of the whole Penn State thing is whatever. I still think he's a good coach. Okay, yes, there's some flaws with James Franklin. I don't disagree with that. Yes, the offensive output was not great at times. Yes, there were some other things with the recruiting stuff, but overall, James Franklin is kind of what you would want for your head coach. And I'll guarantee you this: there were several teams, also particularly the ACC, who wanted him, particularly one in Tallahassee, Florida. And it seems to me that they're not making a move with Mike Norvell, which kind of something I began to gather here, especially after Wisconsin kept their coach Fickle. But yeah, James Franklin, he was in high demand for a number of teams. Now, there were some who didn't want him, or were not really focused on him, like Florida, LSU, and Auburn. I think those schools were sort of, at least to a certain extent, I guess LSU, we don't know, but particularly Auburn and Florida, I don't think their coaching searches were going that direction. I think the industry insiders have been very adamant that Franklin was sort of circling this Virginia Tech job. Doesn't necessarily mean he wasn't considering Auburn and Florida, but it really does seem like Florida and Auburn have their guys circled in, kind of getting their pick of the litter in terms of coaches who they want and coaches who fit what they want. This is a good fit for Virginia. This is a good fit for Virginia Tech. Not only does James Franklin have history in recruiting out there and having success getting players from there, but it just fits what he's been doing in terms of his last job, which was reviving a power who was not relevant. And I'll grant there's other additional non-football related stuff added in, but just being able to revive a power from the 90s. Like James Franklin's already done that. Like what he is doing at Virginia Tech is to revive a national power in college football that was relevant in the 90s and the sort of 2000s, 2010s, and has been relevant since. Sounds an awfully lot like the place he just got fired from. And he had a lot of success there up until this past, up until when he was coaching out his final games there. So he's had the blueprint there to fix a once prominent team in a conference and bring them back up. So he can do that. Yes, there's going to be a big rebuild. Yes, he's going to have to sort of play catch up and get some guys out of the portal. So the first year may suck, but for the years to come, like 2027, 2028, and even 2026, and I'll grant you, yes, the talent there is not as great as you would think it would be. But according to their schedule, at least the teams are playing, we don't know how it'll be laid out. It is a very workable schedule, and that's also the ACC too. I mean, as long as it survives, the ACC is not a serious conference, so whomever they can, whatever talent they can get there, and whatever this team will look like, even with a crappy roster, I think Franklin there in this first year, they could kill it. Maybe not necessarily going to the playoff, but like 8 wins, 9 wins, that's on the table for sure. Yeah, it's the ACC, it's the shittiest conference in America, so they should be able to do that. Now, for Virginia Tech fans, again, this should be exciting for you. Again, you're probably getting not just maybe, by far the best resume coach you've ever gotten. Again, his accomplishments at Penn State, of course, up until this past year, he deserves a statue there. I don't care what people think. Yes, it's maybe kind of toned up to say that now, but I guarantee you in about 10 to 15 years, there will be a statue of James Franklin there. There should be, but there probably won't be, given how it ended, but there should be. There should definitely be one there in Nashville for him when he did at Vanderbilt. But there probably won't be because, Clark Lee exists, but whatever. But again, if you're a Virginia Tech fan, you should be excited here. Again, this is a big deal. From what I can tell with Virginia Tech and how this will, again, this program used to be the model of consistency. Sort of like how Oklahoma State was with Mike Gundy, at least up until the last couple of years. Same thing with Virginia Tech. Like Virginia Tech and Oklahoma State, very similar to where, again, they used to be the models of consistency in their conferences when the other powers or certain major programs are not holding their end of the bargain. Virginia Tech and Oklahoma State were. And Virginia Tech hasn't been relevant, again, since the 2010s and definitely the 2000s and the 90s. Their last 10-win season was under Justin Fuente, who ended up fizzling out and eventually got fired. So that tells you how long ago they had not been relevant. And the last time they were relevant was with a coach who ended up being a shitty hire. So, James Franklin, again, look, Shane Beer, not Shane, his dad, Frank Beer, when he got there, he was nothing. No one knew who he was. He was the guy they hired, and it turns out Frank, kind of in some ways, dad was Sweeney at Clemson, where he just builds himself into this mythical figure, but he didn't have any success beforehand. Frank didn't. His success was at Virginia Tech. James Franklin's different. Like James, again, I'm not disrespecting Beamer at all, but in terms of the resume, in terms of what he has accomplished, this is the best coach. This is the best coach in terms of current resume before he got there that they have ever hired. Again, it may suck maybe next year, but grant you it is the ACC, so they may be able to find some success with a relatively simple schedule to go through or a workable schedule. But I think in the years to come, especially with better recruiting and now better investment from the program up there in Blacksburg, this thing could be a rocket ship. Again, the atmosphere there, incredibly underrated. Again, you have Enter Sandman as a Metallica fan myself. That's really cool to do that. The atmosphere there, I mean, just think about how many opportunities they have had there when they've had like Clemson come there in Florida State, to where those games could have easily been on nationally televised and been the biggest games of the day. But they weren't because the team sucked. You bring in James Franklin, sort of, again, his ability to, again, to turn around these old sort of, kind of bygone, if you will, old powers from like the 90s and the 2000s, bring them back. If he can do what he did at Penn State at Va-Tech, that would be the best case scenario. And I think it's frankly pretty likely that it will happen. Now, again, there are some caveats here. Again, is this, like I said on Twitter, and other folks have brought this up, I think Josh Pate was the first one to coin this, is this going to be James Franklin 2.0? Because then James Franklin 1.0, or I guess, I don't know, 1.5, over there at Penn State was good, but there were some flaws too. Like the offense is the big one. He needs to do a better job of either hiring offensive coordinator or letting the coordinator do their thing. Because that was one of the flaws at Penn State, to where the offense just was not good enough. I think he knows that. And I think with some of this time off, to relax a little bit and kind of get himself together, I have a sneaking suspicion that this will be James Franklin 2.0 instead of just the same James Franklin you got with, you got at Penn State. I am at least hoping that's the case. Now, I could be wrong on that. This could very well be, this time next year, and we're talking about, okay, they're, Virginia Tech's a little bit better than they were this year, but they're still, James Franklin, that offense is still bad. So again, is it the same James Franklin we got when he was at Penn State? Like when he was fired, like the James Franklin of that sort of era of his life? Or is this the James Franklin or is this the 2.0 version of James Franklin? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So that's what I'm wondering here. Again, is it the Penn State version, or is this James Franklin 2.0? We don't know. I am hoping it's the latter and not the former, but we shall see. But yeah, huge hire there for for Virginia Tech. Good for James Franklin to get another give their that'll be huge there for Virginia Tech fans. And again, maybe not necessarily year one, but the years to come, 2027, 2028. Again, if this is indeed James Franklin 2.0, cool. Virginia Tech could be a rocket ship. They very much so could, especially in a ACC that is in turmoil with the future uncertain, sort of with Mike Norvell, Clemson with Dabo Swinney's not really going anywhere fast or kind of scaling back. Miami, probably the other team you have to worry about. Looking good for Virginia Tech, at least their profile. So better days are ahead for them. Then we'll wrap up here for the carousel here with Lane Kiffin. Of course, there's been a lot of discussion about what his future is going to be at Ole Miss. Is he going to leave? Is he going to stay? We don't know. I think the hunch is he will leave, but where's it going to be? Is it LSU? Is it Florida? Is it the NFL? Is it somewhere else? We don't know. I'll talk about where I think Lane's going to go. I'll touch on where I think Lane will go here in a moment. But this is I guess we'll talk about this first when we get to where I think Lane will go. The big discussion about Lane and Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss is that what is this future there? Because we know he's being considered for these jobs, and I think if you're a Ole Miss fan, if you live in like Tupelo, Mississippi, South Memphis, Mississippi, some of these areas in northern Mississippi, if you're an Ole Miss fan, if you're an Ole Miss fan living in those areas, if you're even a Ole Miss admin, how do you feel about this? Because I guarantee you that they feel very frustrated right now. It's not necessarily. I know this is gonna sound like I'm like one of those folks who is dogging on Lane Kiffin for being immature. He's not or not. It's not necessarily him being immature. It's just I get it. There's a lot of things going through his head right now. There's a lot of things he's juggling. Right? Does he want to leave? Does he want to stay? Is he concerned about his future, or is he concerned about his legacy? Right? There's a lot of things he's juggling. I get that. It's tough to make that decision. But if you're Ole Miss and if you're the Ole Miss admin and you're the fan base, you would want to know what his plan is and what his future is going to be, because the conversation around Ole Miss is that, at least the thinking is that once they get into the playoffs, which they will, right? Even if they, lose, I think they're off this week, which is why he is supposedly doing what he's doing, which I'll get to in a minute. So they're off this week, so that's why you're hearing all this stuff come up now. But even if they lose to Ole Miss, or if they lose to Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl, they should be in the playoffs. The seeding we'll see, but Ole Miss and the folks there, the thinking around there is that they want something in pen, not pencil, in pen before the Egg Bowl, around the conclusion of the regular season. Because the thinking is if they go into the playoffs and Lane Kiffin is still kind of, I don't know, bro, I don't know, man. The thinking is that they're going to say, fuck off. Go on, we're going to fire you or you're going to resign. Because they, being Ole Miss, cannot have this distraction continue on. But they cannot let this thing simmer, go into the playoffs, and it becomes a huge distraction instead of, what it could be a good story for them and a good story for Ole Miss, going to the playoffs and potentially winning the national championship. So, again, the Ole Miss fan base and the admin, they want something done by the time the regular season ends. Like, they want something done. They want confirmation into what his future is. Is he staying or is he going? Because if he's leaving, then he needs to leave and not be a distraction, meaning, i.e., what happened with his final days at Alabama when he took the FAU job. And initially, remember, Saban wanted him to stay at Alabama and coach until the national championship game if they made it. The problem is Lane was still, kind of wearing two hats, right? He was wearing the FAU hat, and he was wearing the Bama hat. And Saban eventually just told him, look, bro, you need to go. For your sanity and for mine, just leave. Just go. So he ended up, firing him was more or less him just saying, you need to leave. And for our sanity and for yours, you just go. Just get out of here. Then he's happening with Ole Miss, or at least that is happening with Ole Miss. They're telling Lane Kiffin, and I'm sure, he went on McAfee earlier today. He denied it. Of course, he's going to, at least when it sounded like a non-denial denial. I guarantee you those conversations have been taking place. I'm sure the folks over there in Oxford are really mad at him right now about there's no clarity. So again, my thinking is with him, wherever he goes, if he is taking another job, he will not be coaching the playoff game. It will be either Pete Golding or Charlie Weiss's son. I know that sounds weird, but again, with the way the coaching calendar is and the way the playoff is and how long it is, you're going to see this. You're going to see coaches, whether they're going to other college football, if they're going to other schools or heck, going to the NFL, the incentive is going to be you just need to leave and don't stick around and be a distraction. That's what Lane Kiffin would be if he was still doing this. It would be just so weird. And just for his sanity and for the sanity of the school, again, if he's taking the UF job or some other job, whatever it is, he needs to go. That's the ultimate for Ole Miss, is that, look, if you're leaving, if you're going somewhere else, get the hell out. For our sanity and for yours, just go. Focus on your new job. We'll worry about ourselves. So that's the ultimate for Lane Kiffin, is that he needs to understand is that before they get to the playoffs, is that he needs to know, is he staying or is he leaving? Because if he's staying, fine, good. But if you're taking another job, then you either need to take that job, or you need to take that job and focus on that and leave. And if he doesn't do either, and if he's still undecided, what I think is going to happen, I think they're going to fire him for cause. Not because he's a bad coach. Obviously, he's in the playoff, but they're going to fire him for cause because he is a liability to the university, because he is not making his, or at least he's not. He's just being a liability because he doesn't know what he's doing. So I think, it's either you stay or you go. We'll have an interim coach to playoffs because of how fucked up the schedule is. Or if you don't make a decision, we'll make it for you, and we'll ask you to either resign and say, look, I'm stepping down to focus on other stuff, or we're going to fire you. So it's basically kind of the classic, we'll do this in a nice way or do it the harsh and dirty way. So now, as for where I think Lane Kiffin is going, I just want to go to that part. His family, apparently, and this is real apparently, took a flight after the Florida game, ironically to Gainesville. So kind of ironic. Then, that was on Sunday, now on Monday, yesterday, He was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, at an airport, supposedly. His family, he was not. I think he was clearly in Oxford. So his family obviously scouting the area. You have to understand, too, for some of these guys taking these jobs, it's a big deal, especially if you have a family. Now, if you're single, it's, it's just you. But, most of these guys have a family, kids. It is, you have to treat it kind of like any other job or, you scout out, look around the city and whatnot, school, looking at schools and homes and stuff. So, yeah, I don't necessarily disagree that it is going on. It is going on. I'm sure those things are happening. It's all up to Lane Kiffin. Again, the three options. Again, I'm assuming that the Ole Miss fan base and the admin are laying out to him. You can stay, coach through the playoffs, or you can leave, focus on your new school, and we'll move on, and you'll move on for your sanity in 4 hours, or this can get messy, and we'll fire you for cause you resign. It's up to him. It is up to him, and he needs to make that decision sooner rather than later because the playoffs are fastly approaching, and I am sure certain schools are wanting to get things set up before the transfer window opens up. So it's in the best interest of Lane Kiffin to make a decision, or at least to make it public, so there's no mystery going into the playoff games, and Ole Miss has to make it ugly and probably fire him or tell him he needs to resign. So speaking of the college football playoff, a bit of a weird news thing. So I won't touch on this too much because I think it's kind of crap to begin with, but we have to bring it up. There's been a lot of talk about the CFB expansion. Again, the thinking is that going forward, I think this is the last year of 12 teams. So going forward, we don't know what the format's going to be like. So this is kind of uncharted territory here. So there's a lot of things going on. We touched on this back in the spring and summer about what the model is going to be going forward. Is it going to be a 16 model? Is it going to be a 12-team model still? Is it going to be a 14-team model? Excuse me. Well, the Big Ten, I think there have been a lot of meetings going on about this. The Big Ten has apparently proposed a 24-team model that they want. This is something they've done before, right? They kind of, put out this model that everyone will hate on purpose, and that's what it is. It's a bargaining tactic. So, yes, I believe it's a real proposal that they made, obviously, but it's not a real serious thing. I do believe it is probably one of the ones they've done in the past where it's like, oh, yeah, a 24-team model. They will hate this. All right, then let's go back to a different model. So, just in general, and again, it's not even really the specific topic about their 24-team model, which, by the way, it sucks, at least just the way it sounds. I mean, look, it'll be a cool spectacle, but I don't much care about it, or at least I'm not, necessarily excited about it. I would definitely hate it, but I mean, either with this model or not, I mean, the college football calendar sucks. It does suck, and it's all because of the playoff, right? The way December is and the way January is awful now. Because think about this. I mentioned this with coaching carousel stuff. It's like December, you have signing day. You have coaches getting fired or hired. You have the college football playoff. You have bowl season. Then in January, you have the national championship and you have the transfer portal. So there's like a whole bunch of just football-related stuff going on throughout December and January. Just an entire accoutrement of things going on. Not to mention holidays and things like that. So the calendar in December sucks. And it's all, frankly, the playoff is kind of the main corporate to all this. So if it were me, if I run the sport, I would create a model for the playoff that fits within the calendar of December, or to the very least, it doesn't make it confusing. Which translation, I would much rather go back to the 14 model. But then again, like the analogy I've used before, it's sort of like when you renovate a tall skyscraper, or you add on to it, or you're making, you're adding things to it. You don't take things away from it; you add on to it. Same thing with this. Like whenever they started the expansion a couple years ago, like it wasn't going back down; it was going up. So you will never ever see that 14 model ever again. Like it's only going to go up from here. So I don't know, man. Again, it seems like this is a bargaining tactic from the Big Ten. It sounds stupid. It's stupid on purpose because they want you to hand it because they want to go to a different model that they really support, which I don't remember what it is. I think it's the 16 model one. But either way, all I want and all I think college football fans want is clarity. Again, all this talk about this fucking 2014 playoff and the 16-team playoff and this 100-team playoff. Just give us clarity. Like, just that's all I want is clarity. Just divvy up the factfulness for us, and clearly they can't do that. And then finally here, I guess we'll end with this Bucs Bills reaction. Bills 44, Bucs 32. I was wrong on this about this game. I was wrong. I would wear a clown nose, but I don't have one, and we're not doing a camera for this show, at least for today's show. But I was wrong. I was a little bit too confident about this game. Granted, I was at the Jags-Chargers game, which ended up being a splattering, so I couldn't watch all of it. But I was keeping on the score on my phone. And also, by the way, kudos to everybody extending. I know they're about to go through some major renovations there, but kudos to them for having the NFL Red Zone on the screen. So I was able to watch a little bit of it while not, completely being antisocial during the game. So, I was able to watch little bits and pieces of it throughout. It seemed like to me the offense was not the issue. They actually really had a lot of success. I mean, Sean Tucker, the player of the game for Tampa at 100 yards, kind of like that, the game last year against the Saints, the first game over there in New Orleans, very similar. Passing offense is kind of, ho-hum. Baker threw another, I think he had 2 or 1 pick, I believe. I think he threw 1. So a couple of turnovers in there was, a couple of fumbles too. Look, it was crappy conditions too. I didn't expect I guess I probably should have, but I didn't check the weather forecast. And I was surprised to hear that, snow was in the forecast and it was going to be very cold and rainy. But yeah, offense, not the biggest concern. I mean, look, if you score 32 points in an NFL game, you should win. And heck, I was at the Jags game and they put up 35 on the Chargers. So in most cases, that should be enough for you. That should be enough points to win the game. Unfortunately, the Bucs defense did not show up again, and probably their worst game of the year. Yes, I get it. They're going against a very, very good offense with Josh Allen and Joe Brady, and a lot of the receivers are very, very good as well. Like Shakir had a good day, whatnot. Yes, I get that. That's a very good offense, and I was expecting them to give up probably some points. 44, that's kind of a lot. I will say that it is kind of a lot. And I know a lot of folks are mad at Todd Bowles and mad at the way his defense is played, particularly at times this year. He's not getting fired. He's not in the hot seat, but it's definitely, I guess if you were to use like the, college football video game categories of like coaching status, if you will, or coach status, I guess safe for now. Maybe see warming up, but look, they're still in leader division. Yes, I know the Panthers are kind of a bad moon rising, and those 2 games are looming pretty large right now, but everything is still in front of them, okay? Like they have, the game this weekend, Sunday Night Football against the Rams, which is a little bit more of an important game, and it does sound like that, like I thought, that Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin will be ready for that game. I think they were saving those 2 for, the crucial NFC games, right? I mean, think about it, like the 2 games he just lost after the bye week, Patriots Bills. Well, those are not NFC games. They're not. Yes, they're important because they're good resume building games. You win them, but they're not really going to hurt your playoff chances. Like you're still in the mix and you're still, leading your division. And I think next week's game against the Rams, probably the biggest game so far this season for them, for Tampa. The biggest game so far, because if they win this game, then I think a lot of folks in and around the Tampa area or across the country or the world, if you're a Bucs fan, that if you beat the Rams on the road in a crucial NFC game and keeping your, status in the playoff race, that goes a long way of creating a lot of equity for you. So it sucks. That was kind of hard to watch at times, and look, I was wrong. And look, if we did have a clown nose, I would have brought one out and I would have worn it, but I don't have one. So I was wrong last week, and I was a little bit too more confident. But as I said on Thursday's show, I'm no nihilist. So yeah, that means I'll probably pick the Bucs to win again this weekend. So who knows? Maybe third time's a charm after the bye week. We'll all get it right eventually. So that's the show. A little bit longer than I thought we were going to go, but that's okay. Again, Tuesday poll we moved to Thursday. Upset alerts, the Bucs Rams prediction. I will go over some Marvel news. There was some stuff that got out today for Doomsday, possible leaks, but I don't know, man. With the whole AI slop era, you don't know what's real or not. So take it with a huge grain of salt there. Some leaked photos of like some. It's not. It's actually none of the X-Men characters, the Fox X-Men. It's actually some of the characters who I think off the top of my head, I think 2 of them were confirmed. The other 2 were not. So kind of, if it's real, that's kind of a huge leak. But and there was also a casting announcement that was also made made public as well for Doomsday or for Secret Wars that was not out there earlier before. So we'll cover that maybe Thursday if we have time. So, excuse me. Until then, yes, again, this is the normal time today on live on YouTube. Same thing Thursday, normal time. So until Thursday, take care. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday in the middle of the week. And yeah, we'll see you guys on the next stream.